My wife secretly put our house in her name before filing for divorce. She smirked in court until my lawyer revealed the one clause she missed. I always thought my marriage was solid. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but after nearly 8 years together, I never once questioned my wife, Lisa's, loyalty. Turns out, that was my biggest mistake. Lisa wasn't just planning to leave me, she was planning to leave me with nothing. It started subtly. About 6 months before she filed for divorce, Lisa suddenly became very interested in our house. We bought it together 5 years ago. It was in both our names. Both of us had contributed to the mortgage, though I had put down the majority of the down payment from my inheritance. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch, Lisa casually said, "We should refinance the house under just my name." I frowned. Why would we do that? She gave me a perfectly rehearsed answer. "It'll be easier for us financially. I have a better credit score than you, so we can lower the interest rate." It sounded logical at first. She did have a slightly better credit score than me, and sure, lower interest rates meant lower payments. But something felt off. I pushed back. "But wouldn't that mean taking my name off the deed?" She waved it off, completely unbothered. "Oh, we can add it back later. It's just a technical thing. You trust me, right?" That last part, that was what made me pause. Because Lisa never talked like that. That was the moment I knew something wasn't right. I didn't argue with her. Instead, I told her, "Sure, let's look into it." And while she thought I was just going along with her plan, I was quietly consulting with a lawyer. My lawyer, Ethan, took one look at what she was trying to do and told me, "Do not sign anything." So I didn't. But Lisa? She was 3 steps ahead. One day she came home and said, "Good news, I handled the refinance. You don't have to worry about it anymore." I played dumb. "Oh, did I need to sign anything?" She hesitated for just a second before shaking her head. "Nope, it was all digital. I took care of everything." That's when I knew. She had forged my signature. And worse, the house was now in her name alone. 2 months later, Lisa hit me with divorce papers. She acted sympathetic, even tried to play the victim. "I just don't think this is working anymore." I pretended to be shocked, hurt, lost. Meanwhile, she was smirking. She thought she had already won. Because in her mind, she had done the perfect crime. The house was in her name. The mortgage was in her name. The court would see the house as hers alone, which meant I would get nothing. She even had a real estate agent lined up, ready to sell the house and pocket every penny before I could react. I could almost hear her internal monologue. "I did everything right. He won't fight back. He won't even know where to start." What she didn't know? I had already started. And she had made one fatal mistake. Lisa thought she had it in the bag. Walking into that courtroom, she carried herself like someone who had already won. She wore a pristine white blazer, her hair styled to perfection, and even threw me a pitying smile as she took her seat. I could see it in her eyes. She thought I was about to get destroyed. Her lawyer, a sharp-looking man in his 40s, stood up and launched straight into their argument. "Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Lisa Carter, is the rightful owner of the marital home. As demonstrated by the mortgage and title records, the house is in her name alone. Mr. Carter has no legal claim to the property." I watched Lisa shift in her seat, her smirk growing. She thought I was about to fold. She thought I had no chance. I let them talk, and talk, and talk. Because the longer they spoke, the harder they'd fall. When they were done, my lawyer, Ethan, stood up. He took his time, flipping through some papers with deliberate ease. Then he spoke. "Your Honor, my client does not dispute that the house is currently in Mrs. Carter's name. However, we have substantial evidence proving that the transfer of ownership was done fraudulently." Lisa's smirk flickered. Just for a second. The judge, a serious-looking woman in her 50s, adjusted her glasses. "Fraudulently? Please elaborate." Ethan nodded and walked over to the evidence table. "Your Honor, we have obtained a forensic audit of the mortgage transfer." Then he pulled out the smoking gun. A copy of the mortgage transfer document, signed by both Lisa and me. "Except, I never signed it," Ethan continued. "My client never signed these documents. We have a forensic handwriting expert prepared to testify that his signature was forged." Lisa's entire body stiffened. Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Objection, that's a serious allegation." The judge held up a hand. "I'd like to hear more." Ethan nodded and slid another file across the table. Additionally, Your Honor, we have records showing Mrs. Carter actively pursued this transfer without my client's knowledge, contacting the mortgage lender, submitting forged authorization forms, and even attempting to expedite the process to avoid his detection. I risked a glance at Lisa. Her face had completely drained of color. That smugness, that confidence, gone. She opened her mouth, probably to stammer out an excuse, but her lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, we need time to review this. The judge cut him off. I'm not finished. Then she turned back to Ethan. Continue. Ethan nodded and pulled out another file. Your Honor, not only did Mrs. Carter illegally transfer the house into her name, but she also violated the prenuptial agreement in doing so. Lisa whipped her head toward me. She forgot about the prenup. Ethan continued. Our prenuptial agreement clearly states that any major financial decisions regarding joint assets require both parties' written consent. This fraudulent transfer is not only illegal, but it also voids any claim Mrs. Carter has to spousal support, as per Section 4 of our agreement. Lisa's lawyer looked like he was about to have a stroke. Lisa? She looked completely wrecked. Because that meant not only was she losing the house, she was walking away with nothing. Lisa wasn't going to go down quietly. She leaned forward, her voice shaky but defiant. This is ridiculous. The house is in my name. The court will still rule in my favor, I finally spoke. Actually, Lisa, the court won't have to rule on anything. She turned to me, blinking. What? I let the silence stretch, let her squirm. Then I leaned in slightly. Because I'm suing you for mortgage fraud and financial damages. So even if you had won today, you'd be drowning in legal fees for the next 5 years. The courtroom was silent. You're bluffing, Ethan smirked. Actually, we've already filed the lawsuit. You should be getting served any moment now. And right on cue, the door opened. A court officer walked straight up to Lisa, and handed her an envelope. Lisa's hands shook as she opened it. Her eyes scanned the page. Then she snapped. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. I deserve that house. The judge slammed her gavel. Enough. Lisa immediately shrank in her seat. The judge took a deep breath before delivering the final verdict. Given the overwhelming evidence of fraud and contractual violation, the court finds in favor of Mr. Carter. The house will be returned to his name immediately, and Mrs. Carter will be responsible for all legal fees and any pending fraud charges. Boom. Game over. Lisa? She sat there, staring at nothing. Her lawyer, realizing they had lost spectacularly, started quietly gathering their things. Me? I just smiled. But Lisa wasn't going down without a fight. Even after the judge ruled against her, even after she was served with my lawsuit in real time, she still tried to claw her way out of the mess she created. At first, she sat there, frozen. Her hands shook as she clutched the lawsuit papers, her breathing shallow like she was about to pass out. Then, the switch flipped. She exploded. You can't do this, she screamed, bolting up from her chair. I put everything into this marriage. You owe me something. The judge slammed the gavel. Mrs. Carter, sit down or you will be removed from the courtroom. Lisa turned, wild-eyed, toward her lawyer. Do something. Her lawyer? He was already packing up his papers. I almost laughed. Even he knew she was done for. But Lisa wasn't giving up. She spun back toward me, teeth clenched, voice shaking with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? I kept my face neutral. I think I protected myself from a scam artist. Her nostrils flared. You set me up. I leaned back, tilting my head. Lisa, you forged my signature. That's a felony. You did this to yourself. That's when I saw it, the exact moment she realized she was actually screwed. Up until now, Lisa thought this was just a bad divorce case gone wrong. She figured she'd lose the house, but move on. But financial fraud, forgery, a lawsuit that could leave her in debt for years, she hadn't planned for that. Lisa took a deep breath and switched tactics. Her voice softened, her eyes glistened. Babe, please, she whispered. We don't have to do this. We were good together once. We can figure something out, right? The classic sweet talk my way out move. I almost admired the effort, almost. I leaned forward, staring her dead in the eyes. Lisa, you spent months planning to screw me over. You don't get to play the loving wife now. Her expression twisted. You bastard. There she was. The real Lisa. The judge, who had been watching this disaster unfold with obvious irritation, sighed. Mrs. Carter, since you refuse to compose yourself, let me be clear. This case is settled. The property is to be immediately transferred back to Mr. Carter's name, and given the evidence of fraud, your financial claims are null and void. Lisa's face twisted into horror. Additionally, the judge continued, given the severity of this case, I will be forwarding the evidence of signature forgery to the district attorney's office. They will decide whether to pursue criminal charges. Dead silence. Lisa's mouth opened. No words came out. She had lost the house, the money, the power. And now, she might be facing actual criminal charges. Her lawyer stood up, clearing his throat. Your Honor, in light of this ruling and my client's behavior, I would like to formally withdraw from this case. Lisa whipped around. What? Mrs. Carter, he sighed. I can't represent someone who actively committed fraud. You're on your own. And with that, he walked out. Lisa? She stood there, trembling, completely, utterly alone. Lisa turned back to me, her eyes wide, her chest heaving like she was about to cry. You did this to me. You ruined my life. I stood up, slowly buttoning my jacket. No, Lisa, you ruined your own life. I just made sure you didn't ruin mine too. She let out a guttural scream and collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I didn't wait around to see what happened next. I just turned and walked out of the courtroom, and let the doors slam shut behind me. A few weeks later, Lisa tried to fight the fraud charges, but she had no case. She was found guilty and ordered to pay fines that wiped out her savings. Her dream of selling the house for profit? Gone. Her reputation? Destroyed. Her real estate agent refused to work with her, and even some of her friends cut ties. She lost everything because she was greedy enough to try and steal what was never hers. One day, I drove past the house that was legally mine again, and who did I see? Lisa. Dragging her last suitcase to a cheap rental across town. She glanced up, saw me sitting in my car. I rolled down my window. Nice place? Lisa, looks cozy. Then I drove off without looking back.